Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we have a very muscular guest.
This is Derrek Eby. He is the owner of Hercules Nutrition and Training. Got to know him from a mutual friend of ours. Seth actually gave me your number to reach out to you about going to Psi seminars. And then ever since then, we've gotten to know Derrek well. And he's thinking about collaborating with one of our other friends, Jimmy. So, like, in a way, we've networked, we've gotten to know each other well, and Derrek's always posting pictures of all these huge dudes he's just training with, nutrition, fitness, some mindset stuff as well. So we're going to be talking to him today about fitness, nutrition, mindset, success, relationships, all the stuff.
Business.
Love it.
All the stuff. Thanks for coming on, Derrek.
No, thank you for having me, man. I'm really excited. I mean, I like to talk. I love when people ask me questions, so I'm going to be perfect.
Love it.
So, Derrek, I looked at your Facebook, and the cover page was interesting, and it seemed like really genuine and authentic. It wasn't like a lot of the other ones that are, like, you can tell that somebody just, like, photoshopped some stock images and made it look, like, really crisp and, like, nice. But yours sort of looked like more like you wrote a paragraph about yourself and then you had a few pictures. And it said basically how it was that you kind of got started in fitness. So what did that look like? Like, how did you grow up? And then how did you decide that fitness and training and nutrition was your thing?
So upbringing had very little, actually, that's wrong. But upbringing, I was just really overweight. It made me real sad all the time. I mean, it was not a fun way to live. I remember spending, like, I say this all the time in my own chats. I remember, like, telling myself every year, you know, this is the last year. If you've ever been overweight when you're young, you know, every year, this is the last year I'm going to be overweight. This is the last year I'm going to be unhappy. The last year that, you know, things aren't going to work out really well for me. And, you know, it always was never the last year. You know, I just stayed overweight and things weren't good. And then as I got older, you know, I got myself into a little bit of trouble, and that's actually when I thinned out, just because I was kind of like a wild kid. I was just everywhere all the time. When you're not home, you don't necessarily have like DiGiorno's in your friend's freezer to eat all the time. So I was just like moving around a lot, and I lost a lot of weight during that. And then I remember getting skinny, probably like 16, 17 years old, and I remember not liking that either. Like, I got really skinny, and I thought that would be like the end all be all. I was going to get skinny. It's something I think a lot of people feel. Like, if I get thin, everything will be great. And then I got thin, I went like, with no offense to anybody, thin wasn't that attractive either. I was just like, okay, I need to do something with this. So I started building muscle. I had a couple reasons in my life. I had like a physical altercation that I kind of got, I lost. And that really, as a man, inspired the heck out of me to start lifting a lot. And then the journey just really went from there. I went from obese to thin to being like one of the better bodybuilders in Indiana, in my opinion. Most people just say Fort Wayne, but it was a lot of fun. And then I retired from bodybuilding 2 years ago for some health problems. And then now it's just been business centric since.
Wow.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting that people, I noticed it with moving too. Like, if you live in a really warm state, I was talking to people in Miami, they talked about how they wanted to move to Indiana because they want the cold. And then the same thing whenever you're overweight. It's funny that you think you want to be skinny. Whenever you're skinny, you want to build muscle. So you always want the opposite. And it's cool that you were actually able to see both sides of it. So that's pretty awesome that you get to really, just create whatever body that you really want to create. Because that's what we have the opportunity to do, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that is one thing I like about Fort Wayne. I mean, just on the weather side, it's like, you know, if you don't have winter, you don't get to appreciate summer. Yeah. So it's like, that's the way I kind of have perspective on everything in life. Like, you know, the good comes from the bad. If you didn't have the perspective, I mean, how can you enjoy the good? Yep. So, I mean, I do see it a lot in the fitness journey. And I do think my path has a lot to do with what I do. So, like, obviously, I always liked learning. Learning was always really, really important to me. I'm like a very analytic guy. I like to be the smartest guy in the room. Yeah. I like to talk really eloquently and know what I'm talking about. So I learned a lot, and then along the way I just kind of found out that I could help so many people through it. Mm-hmm. And then it was kind of the first narrative wasn't really money. It shifted from wanting to be able to help people into money just kind of monetarily came with it.
Yep. That's awesome.
It's funny that you say that, like, the altercation that you got in was one of the things that inspired you. And in a similar way, I mean, it's one of the reasons why Dakota and I ended up becoming friends, because, like, he had some altercations and was like, dude, I really want to learn how to fight. And then I was posting, which probably don't do this, I was posting my fights on YouTube for kids that were fighting that were like 16, 17 years old, which like was against YouTube guidelines. And so some of them were getting taken down and things like that. But that's kind of how we became friends. And I think it's so funny. I don't know if there's necessarily a lesson, but it's sort of like, you know, those bullies and the altercations and the competition, like the dominance hierarchy of middle school and high school can kind of like push you to become this, like, you know, you want to be this badass, especially among men, you know, like to...
Yeah, I think it's absolutely the case. I mean, Jordan Peterson talks a lot about in his book, like 12 Rules. It's a book I really enjoy about the hierarchy system. And like anybody who does not believe we have like a hierarchy system is just, it's nonsense. I mean, you can see it in everything. If a very, very dominant, masculine, confident man walks into a room, he's more likely to get the sale. He's more likely to like win people's favor. He's more likely to... I mean, there is just there's a notion of it in what we do, and obviously I think we see the opposite of it. It's like if you get beaten in a fight, or if you get beaten in a sale, or if you get beaten in anything, I mean, not just as a man, but as anybody, I mean, it really can taint the way you feel, taint the way you move, taint your reactions. So I am a big fan of, like I said, Jordan Peterson's thought process on it, which is like, I think that's the chapter in his book called Keep Your Chest Tall, but it's like rule number 3 or 2, but keep your chest tall. And it really is just about the fact that in the hierarchy system, if you can keep yourself confident, if you can keep yourself higher up on the hierarchy system, not only will your results be better, but you'll feel better. And I think that's one thing that helps a lot with lifting. I mean, we see it, and I work with a lot of business professionals. I mean, I've worked with everybody over the years, but the funny thing is, like Parker Braun happens to be one of the guys you guys have had on here. I've worked with Parker for years and years and years. And Parker, when he started taking it seriously, it was one of the funniest things. He was already in commercial, and we saw right away the second he started taking it seriously, he would call me. He'd be like, every couple months, he'd be like, dude, every bit bigger and like more confident I get, the more sales I'm closing. Like every bit bigger and happier I get, like from this journey, like the better I'm doing at work, the more confident I am, the more I want to wear like the really nice suit, and the more I want to sell. And like you can see that in every dilemma we see people go through. Like if that's why I think the gym is so important outside of obviously just physical health. I mean, we can go into longevity, we can go into all those things too, but just feeling good is an amazing thing. It'll make you more productive. It'll make your results better. It really is a win-win.
Yep. Yeah, that leads me to a lot. So one is I want you to see if you give me a overarching view of whatever those 12, like whatever you said with Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
What is like an overarching view of that book?
I love Jordan Peterson. So depending on what everybody feels about him, up to them. But I love the guy. I do believe that the man has an amazing perspective on society as we stand now. I do think we have, like, I don't want to say a weak society in a rude way, but I do believe, like, you know, strong men make good times, you know, weak men make bad times. I think we're on the losing end of that stick right now. But that book really is a lot more about like picking the right people to be around you, how you make your decision process, like how should you go into a decision. And a lot of it, like little things. I mean, we might have all heard this quote by Jordan Peterson. He talks about how a man who's not capable of violence is not actually a pacifist. He, in other words, he's a wussy. He's incapable. But a man who is capable of violence, who decides not to create violence, is a calm man, is a relaxed man.
And that's where actual honor and nobility comes from, versus if you're absolutely incapable of producing harm, then there's nothing noble, moral, or virtuous, or even anything to admire about someone who chooses not to.
Yeah, and we've absolutely all seen that person. You know, I mean, we all know that person. We've been at like the gym around, or we've been at a party around, or we've been around in some social setting that is just physically incapable. You can kind of see it, like, with no offense to the person, like whether they are so out of shape in one direction or the other, and then they're just talking this big game like they're the man. And you're like, you're not, you're just talking it. You're clearly incapable of it. I think that's one thing that Jordan Peterson also gets really into, is like, don't let things come out of your mouth if you don't have the ability to back it up. I don't even mean from a physical fighting sense. I mean, like, one thing I'm a big rule on is I don't like to bullshit, like at all. Like I'll tell you all the time, like I'm very well known for saying I don't know. I think it's something that's lost on society nowadays, is like the inability to be wrong. But like all the time, people ask me questions that I should have the answer to, and I don't know. I have no idea. We can look it up together. We can figure it out together, but I don't know that. So I think Jordan Peterson's standpoint on a lot of these things, which I'm a big fan of, the 12 rules, is a lot of just like the way you come into situations with confidence, the way you decide which situations you come into, and who those people should be. He does talk a lot in the book about who you surround yourself with, how that's going to affect your life. And I mean, we've all probably seen that in our life. It is the hardest thing to break, is separating yourself from the people you love, but, you know, the love of that relationship isn't like breeding good into your life. It is a difficult thing. And a lot of his stuff really is about masculinity and, how to be a good, humble, honorable man. And I think it is like something that every person as a whole could like really pull from.
Yeah.
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We give you marketing strategies like how to pull lists, who we target, and where we find the money.
We go over sales, which includes live calls and negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's anything that we missed, we will create a video to answer your specific question.
This knowledge has made us over $1 million, and we're selling it today for just $997. Click the link below.
Love it.
I think it's kind of funny because we started off this podcast with a lot of like dominance and strength and competition and that sort of thing. And it feels really like, whoo.
Yeah.
But then I'll look at your Facebook reels, and a lot of times you're like, guys, I just want to love you. Like, I just want to help you. I just want to like give you peace and like that sort of thing. So that contrast is sort of funny because just of how like big and muscular a lot of your like, clients and stuff are. And then on the other hand, you're kind of just like, guys, like we can win together. Like, come with me. I'll help you. I'll show you the way.
I definitely think there's something to that, though. It's like, what I mean by that is like it's kind of that if you're capable of violence, you have the ability to control. And I do think like because I have been through so many things, I've seen so many things, I have a lot of perspective. I do have this deep ability to love people. I see them from all perspectives. I know what it's like to be obese. I know what it's like to be skinny. I know what it's like to be weak. I know what it's like to be beaten. I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to just feel worthless. I know all these things. And then obviously, the bravado of what we do. I mean, one thing that we see in business a lot, and I mean, there is real merit to it, which is like, you don't want to go into a sale and they ask you how your week went and you go, oh, I lost 4 clients this week. We lost 4 sales. Everything went bad. There is a bravado to all business where it's like you show the good parts. And I do think that's something that I try in my business to alleviate a little bit, but on the right scale is like, I do want to let people know, like, you do have value. You really do. You have value, and I love you. A lot of people might not have that. And I mean that when I say that to people. I mean, like, I truly do care for people. When people come and work with me, even if they don't, I do really want to help these people. And I mean, you see that in my post a lot. Like I said, I try to be genuine. I try to share love. And the reason I do it, I mean, you guys know the win-win mindset. The thing I found in my life is the more love I give, the more love I share. Not only do I gain like a bigger vessel of love I can give, which is kind of cool, but also I get so much more back. My life has only gotten infinitely better the more I take care of people.
Yeah, I'll say so. Quote that I heard from Ed Milet is basically you're most capable to help the people that you used to be. So that's the cool thing is like whenever you have more experiences, then you are able to help them through that because you actually. And the interesting thing is I noticed you have more empathy. If you never experienced anything, you never did anything. Like I remember I was very straight edge in school, so I didn't I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do certain things. And so then what happened was there was a lot more judgment upon anybody who did that. Whereas when you've been through that, their feelings, you actually can empathize with them and help them through it a lot more.
Yeah, it's you see that a lot. One of the things I struggle with, not a struggle necessarily, but I grew up with a very like addict household, and it's not something I need to get into or anything, but because of that, I have like a real natural need to help these people. I did it in my own life when I was young. I did it in my own life when I was in my teens. And now even in my business, I do find it is one of my struggle points is like I said, when people are obese, when people have drug issues, when people have these issues that I've dealt with so like sincerely in my life, it is so hard for me to separate myself from that person. It does make me a great coach. And I love that I have the ability to do that, but it can also be hard on the other perspective and what I do. Cause I mean, what I do is so hands-on. Like I am a very, very hands-on coach. It's not necessarily like there's no separation. It's not like here's an email, I'll talk to you in a month. That's wonderful. I'm constantly on the phone. I'm constantly working hands-on with these people. Like I build a real rapport, a lot of love for these people. My clients almost always become my friends. So that can be the hardest things. Because in my industry, like I work on the fitness and health side of things, which is awesome. I love doing that. But I also do work on the lifestyle side of things where I help people, like I said, with drug addictions, with like substance abuse, with its mental issues, just trying to clear their head, be happier, things like that. And like you said, you do have the ability to help those people more, but I think one thing I've had to learn over the years is like those are also the people that you might feel like the most desperation to help, because there is like a mental interconnection between like your past, your life, and that person. And in business, you do have to be able to separate those things sometimes.
Yeah. So actually, I just asked Dustin a question yesterday that I'm gonna ask you too, is because I've struggled with this a lot. Is I've noticed, you're married? Okay,
Yes.
that's awesome. So when you're married and then like you know that you have an obligation for time with your wife, or like you actually want to spend it with them, but then like you have a client that's like going through something, how do you find the time or separate like from like, okay, I really want to help this person. There's a lot of people asking me questions. I want to help everybody, but I notice that I will actually give up my closest relationships for the people that are newer. Do you have that struggle, and how do you work around that?
Yes, it's hard, man. I'm a very happily married man, and I can say that it takes a lot of work, especially if you want to be a businessman. I think it only works in like a mutual, multiple reasons sense. Like, one, you have to have a very selfless spouse. Like, my wife is incredible. She's selfless. She knows that I have to take care of these people. She knows that they are in a worse position than we are. We have a very blessed life, obviously, from work and from effort, but we do, and we know it. So there are times where she does have to take the back burner, and that's hard. But for me, separating it out, the best way I've found is schedule. I know that's like, it's the most boring. It's like the least sexy answer for a marriage, but I think if more people did it, you'd be happy. Like, I have set date nights with my wife. You know, I for the longest time, I was working 80 hours, 90-hour weeks for the last couple of years to take the business I've been working on Hercules for about 9 years.
Wow.
And it's been like a, I don't want to say a crapshoot or anything like that, but it made no money at all for the first like 6 years. It was just something I loved doing. I really, really loved helping people. I worked in like the disease prevention side of things during that a lot. So like those people are more desperate and they don't have as much money. So I like doing it. But as things have grown, I've had to put so much effort into the projects. I've had to grow so much with it. And I've had to learn how to work those 80, 90-hour weeks that sound impossible. I mean, you learn how to do it. And my wife has had to take the back burner. So the one thing I've done this last year that I set the goals at PSI, one beautiful thing, like what we learned there, spend time with these people. It was actually Sarah LaRue's idea. She was my mentor there. Love Sarah. That I needed to set these date nights and I needed to schedule things. And since PSI, I don't work in the evenings. I schedule that completely off so that I can spend time with my wife. I schedule the weekends off. I work in the mornings a little bit if I need to, but schedule that off. And then I do have set date nights, and that can be really important. I think if you want to have a spouse and be a businessman, like I think we all understand it's impossible to be 100% at anything. Mm-hmm. You just can't. So if
your tattoo say 100%?
100% or nothing, but at one thing at a time. Yes. I am a very obsessive person. That is, like, you're very much. I can assume you guys are too. It's kind of a merit if you want to be in our business, is you have to be obsessive. And like you said, it's hard. Like, there's times where, like, love or death, my wife is my favorite person to spend time with, and there's nothing against her. But sometimes it's really hard to step away from the business because, like, not only is it our finances, not only is it this thing, but it is like, it's my child, it's my baby, it's this thing. And these people I'm helping, I mean, like, they don't come to you with like, hey, when you got time, that'd be wonderful if you could like help. They're desperate. They need you. And like, when you have, it's like, there's a twofold there. If you have the ability to give, like, I've always had this thought process, if you have the ability to help and you don't, it's almost your fault if something bad happens. And that might not be correct, but that's how I feel.
Sure.
If I can help and I don't help, then it's on me with what comes from that.
Yep.
So I think you have to find just a good scheduling and separation if you want that to work.
Yeah, and it's hard because I noticed too that, like, even if you're with your wife and then like there's other people messaging you, you're putting them on it, then like there's no point of even being there. Like, you said 100% or nothing. Like, when I'm somewhere, I want to be 100% present. And that's what I've been working on more, is like, if I'm here, like, I put my phone on silent now, because before I used to actually like go and text, and it's like, dude, what's the point of even being here if I'm going to do that anyway? So now I've just been more focused on wherever I'm at, that's where I'm going to be, instead of like, trying to be everything for everybody, which I try to do. I found that it's better to just be 100% with her when you are, and she doesn't want to be with you all the time.
It's hard, man. I will say, and obviously I think, I don't know perspective, everything, but like right now I have 58 clients. Mm-hmm. So like, you can imagine by that number, and I talk to my clients a lot, that like there's times where I can walk away from my phone to like cook dinner and come back to the couch with my dinner, so a very short span of time, and I can have like 27 notifications. Mm-hmm. And like, once again, some of those can be desperation texts. Yep. Some of them can be like, I'm cooking dinner right now and I need an answer. Or they can be like, I'm having a breakdown. I have all these things. So it's hard to separate. The one thing I know, it's another simple, like, boring answer, but it's like, I try to leave my phone in the car when I'm with my wife. Yeah. Or if I do, like, we have really big rules on just keeping them in our bag, keeping them away from us. It can be helpful, but you're right. It is the biggest struggle we do in business, is like, business is like a marriage also. So it's like, like when I'm not putting all my effort into that, it gives me such uncertainty. I mean, like we all know we work in this uncertain fields. Like as much as we all, I'm hoping in this room, have great success coming, and we have it right now. I mean, the thing that comes with entrepreneurship is the big word, uncertainty. And uncertainty's hard. Uncertainty scares you, man. It's like the thing that you're laying in bed at night and you're thinking all the thoughts you got to prepare for the week because you don't want anything to go wrong. Because you're scared the whole dominoes are going to fall at times. But at the same time, like I said, you got to put that same effort into the people in your life, your friends. And I think if you can try to find friends and people in your life who can work with your business, who can attach to it, I think that you can usually do well with that as well.
Like it.
Are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and we've tried several different CRMs, and Ari Simply has been the best.
Ari Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records your incoming phone calls.
The system is simple to use and has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try Ari Simply today. We put the link in the description. Check it out now. How is your operation different from some of the other fitness and nutrition coaching and personal training and that sort of thing out there? And what does your organization look like today?
So obviously the first difference is we're just the absolute best. So the difference between me and a lot of other people, so I've been on all fronts is the nice thing for me. So I was a trainer for years. I've been a trainer still to this day. I've been a trainer for almost 10 years now, about to be a decade. I've been a nutrition specialist for 5 or 6 years. So I've worked from everything from in-gym training, coaching. I worked in disease prevention, so we're helping people with, last year, Hercules, we cured 26 cases of type 2 diabetes. Wow. A lot of stuff like that, pulled almost 100 medications out. A lot of big stuff like that. That's what I like to do. So and I'm just going to do this right now. I just completely blanked on the question mid-sentence.
Yeah.
So how are we different? Sorry. But the big separator for us is just, we're very hands-on, and I think that where other businesses, one big difference between me, Hercules, and everyone else that I changed in the last couple of years that really separated us is I stopped competing with price. And the difference there was I no longer compete with price with anybody. I compete with quality. And I know I'll win. That's why I did that. People can beat me in price all day because I might not be the coach for you. You know what I mean? My price might not be the price for you, but I am the best for you. So that's the separating factor. So quality is where I always shoot for. And I do think, I'm around a lot of other coaches. I'm around a lot of people, and I'm not going to say anything negative about any other coaches. Everyone's trying, and at least they're helping. But what I do is very selfless, and I do put the client first. We have a lot of time put into things, and I do think that we are the most scholarly company in Fort Wayne. All of the coaches we have coming on, we're going to have a staff of 5 people starting March 1st. And everybody who works for me, the rules to work for Hercules, you have to be a nutrition specialist, you have to be an elite level trainer, you have to be Hercules certified, which is a year-long program I put people through. You have to be the best of the best. So I think that's what we bring to the table.
When you say, what was the second one, elite?
Elite level trainer. So
what does that mean?
It's actually just a different personal training certificate. So I could get you guys in this room personal trainer certificates in the next 30 minutes. It really is a joke. Let's describe a question. I know you do workout, Dakota.
I had the CSCS. I was an exercise science major.
Yeah.
So I got out, started doing personal training with people, and this is not it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend the 6 years that you spent.
Yeah.
So how is it different from some of the traditional, I can't remember the other one was NCCS, CSCS, and it's certified sports and
yeah. So there's the problem with certifications is there's millions of them, and some of them sound really fancy and they're really easy, but like for a personal trainer certificate, there's your certificates you get that like I said, the questions will be when you do a squat, do you work your glutes or your forehead? That'll be the questions. The merits are so low because the company wants to make the payment from you. They want to make the money from you. The people who are giving the certificates out. So my clients and my coaches, everyone has to be NASM certified or ACE certified, so ACE. Those are going to be the highest end certifications. Those are hard ones to get. Those are
those are not a joke.
Those are 6-month hard college level programs.
Okay. That kind of reminds me of just I got done with my exercise science degree, and I was looking at those, and I was still going to have to study.
Wow.
So it was like human physiology, anatomy, but like in an in-depth way, and some stuff that like maybe I didn't get from physiology or kinesiology class, maybe I didn't get from biomechanics, maybe I didn't get in like some health metrics too, like some minor medical stuff, to the point where it's going to be like, okay, I got to like buckle down, study this for 3 months, and then get that certification. So yeah, those are not a joke.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think the hardest certifications my coaches get is the Hercules certification, and that's because I'm mean. You know, I mean, I want them. I not just want. I need them. I need them to be at a certain level. The clientele we deal with, we work with everything from weight loss, muscle gain, all the way down. Like I said, we're helping people with severe diseases, working with people with cancers, we're working with people who have all sorts of problems, and then we get into like the cooler stuff. We get into like longevity. I put people on really expensive, really hard protocols. Not expensive money to me, expensive protocols they go do elsewhere for longevity, living longer. I really like the biohacking side of things, and you have to know what you're doing if you want to step into those realms, because you can hurt people.
Right. Wow.
So there's some folks who are in our immediate circle of friends and that sort of thing who are concerned about like health problems and things like that. Maybe they're a little bit older, and is there any like blanket health advice that you give to people? Does it have to be specific to them, or are there just some blanket things that are easy as far as health, fitness, nutrition?
Absolutely, absolutely. So like what I do is very specific. So I do like days of calculations to create just the base of a plan before I even start building for a client, but general rules of thumb for like everybody. So like for one, we all talk about living longer. That's like a real simple one. There's nothing that'll make you live longer more than working out. So like really simple. So like there's medications that'll increase life expectancy by like 20%. There's all sorts of metrics you can go down, raise life expectancy by 15%. Those are still awesome. But working out, just working out 3 days a week in any method, but just like getting a good 30, 45 minutes of working out will lower your risk of mortality by 4 times. So there's nothing that does that big of a leap. And it's because we're not built to be a sedentary species. We're built to move. It's something that's lost on society nowadays. Like,
and when you say workout, does that mean like cardio, lifting weights, or anything? Or is there one that was better than another?
So working out with weights is always going to be the most beneficial way to do it. So when you do cardio, there's two parts that are like conflict a little bit. One, doing cardio is great for your heart. Awesome, but also it tends to burn off muscle. It doesn't stimulate your body to grow muscle. It actually stimulates the opposite reaction. When you do cardio, the best way to improve cardio is to have less muscle. That's why marathon runners are so thin. So everything's about the stimulation you give your body in the gym. So cardio, will you lose muscle? And that's a really bad thing. You don't want to lose muscle. The opposite though, if you lift weights, get all the cardio benefits, your heart's going to get healthier, all these things, but you will gain muscle. And like the more obviously, I could go in depth into it, but like the benefits of having muscle, they output almost anything. Like if you want to lower disease, have more muscle. Like if you want to get rid of diabetes, have more muscle. If you want to feel better, move better, live longer, all these things, have more muscle. It'll always works that way. Don't get me wrong. And then we have the extremes. Like I'm not talking about bodybuilder who has like, so much muscle he can't get in his car. We're talking about having muscle, like a normal, healthy muscle.
Yeah, I was going to say the guy at Indianapolis Fitness and Sports Training, I trained with him a little bit, and he's like, at a certain point, like you can sacrifice mobility and that sort of thing for performance. And that's what I think of as like elite bodybuilders, where it's like you are putting on enough muscle that you end up paying a price for an immense amount of muscle, especially if your frame's not like built to support it, and then you get into the whole natural, unnatural.
It's so funny because it's when we look the most fit on the planet. For someone that was a bodybuilder, and I lost my health because of it. So I'll say that. So it's like a little tedious, like obviously can't be the greatest thing for you if that happened. And I'm also smart with the health side. Still had to happen. But at my biggest, I was like 265 with like abs still. So I was a big boy, but like you get winded tying your shoe. Like I would get in bed, and by the time I had like the covers pulled up, and like I'd be like sweat. Like I still use a CPAP machine to this day just because I got comfortable with it. I think they're good for you. But like I had to start using a CPAP machine because my weight got so heavy that my breathing couldn't handle the amount of muscle I had. So I had to wear a CPAP machine. And I was like, those are the not fun side of things you don't see.
Yeah. Do you know Gary Brecka? Have you heard of him?
I don't offhand.
Okay, so he's the 10X one, but he has a quote that he says.
Oh, I know Gary. Sorry. Yes, I do.
Yeah, I'll say he says the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease, and so that's just something that he really believes, and he does breath work and all that stuff a lot. Have you done anything like that or looked into that at all?
So my company used to be so when I say Hercules has been around for 9 years, the company's been around for 9 years. I've changed the name a lot. So it used to be called Derrek the Healer, and I was really into breath work. I worked on breath work, meditation practices, and that's when I was working in disease prevention. So obviously those correlate really, really well. I'm a big fan. Breath work scares me a little bit, and not in the sense like you shouldn't do it, but it's like there's a hump I always have to go over when I get back into it. Because I mean, if you guys have done heavy breath work, it can get adrenaline going, it can get your heart rate hopping around and get all these things going. Obviously for good reasons. Like we're basically, you're just over oxygenating, which can be great. It's just if you're not used to it, you have to readjust to it. So I've always like personally enjoyed meditation a little bit more. I like heat therapy is probably my favorite form of therapy that I get like relaxation through that I like to do, but breath work is awesome.
Nice. So earlier we talked about competition, and this is something that I've thought a lot about. It's kind of interesting. So I want to hear your perception of it. So
Getting into challenging questions.
Yes, I love it.
yeah, I've just thought about competition in the sense of like, okay, you're competing, and then it's funny that we always get like that little bit of jealousy. You know, we talked about that dominance. Somebody else steps in the room. The funny thing is that I've noticed, and like at first I told myself, and like, you know, I have a lot of self-talk and trying to like make this life not necessarily easier, but more like easier to connect with people. So I've noticed that if somebody else is there, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna work harder. I'm gonna be like better. I'm gonna be stronger. You said you like to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm gonna study more. Like I'm gonna make sure that I'm like the guy. But then the funny thing is I noticed that like I told myself, okay, well, if we're competing, their abilities don't take away my abilities. I can still have the same ability, so that's okay that they're great and all this other stuff. That doesn't affect me, actually. I'm still the same person. But then now I'm getting in to realize that who's the second best swimmer in the world? Nobody freaking knows. Who's the second fastest runner? Nobody knows. So everybody knows number one. So then it's interesting that like that competition about who's the best is actually by perception, when really if that person didn't exist, now the second person is the best, and then now they're the person they get admiration, which I think is why we want it all, is because we want people to like us, to love us, to admire us, to see us. So I just want to know your thoughts on that, like how you look at competition and like being the best and what that looks like.
Absolutely. I think that, I mean, this is something that Jordan Peterson talks about. This is something that like I talk about a lot with people, is that all we're seeking is status. Status is everything. This is something that I don't know where I've heard someone say this before, but it's like, you know, like you want the fastest car because no one else has the fastest car. Like not, like if everyone had it, it wouldn't be cool. It's actually not a very comfortable car to drive. You know what I mean? Like you want it because I pull up and you see my fancy car. You know what I mean? Like you want muscles because when you walk in the room, it's something earned. Like not everybody can, and also these are the big separator there. It can't just be something that no one has. It has to be something that is hard to earn. Like muscles, like the reason I think that like having muscle, having a great physique is so impeccable. And like this is something I know you guys work out a lot, you know, because you can't just buy it. You can't just get it. It's earned. Like if you walk in a room, and we both probably feel this way, I feel this way. If I walk in a room and I see a guy really fit, I know right away. I go, at least I know this guy can work really, really hard. Yeah. But back to the whole competition thing, like first and second, I really do think, it all goes back to status. You know what I mean? Like, and status is all we're seeking. Like if you have the biggest company in the world, status. You make the most money in the world, status. You know, all these things. There's definitely a beginning factor there. Like, you know, less money is really bad. You don't want to have no money. But I think at a certain point, like all you're seeking past what you actually need and would need to have like everything you want is just status.
Yeah. What I've noticed is the happiness only comes from whenever you can detach from the competition, though. So then I'm like, man, that was the only way that I found that I was able to detach. Is like their abilities aren't taking away my abilities. But then I'm like, mother fricker. But if somebody else is better, then like now they're getting all the recognition. I get none, even though I'm still like at a higher like ability than like most people. So that's where I'm like, man, I'm just like got this conflicting where it does affect happiness.
Oh, it does. It does. I think perspective is like the best thing you can have there. Like this is like, I know this sounds super like bad, but when I was a bodybuilder, like I worked it out at Iron Society Gym, Fort Wayne. It's still where I train. It's where I'm one of the head coaches. I love it there. But like at night, there are the best bodybuilders in like Indiana there. So like I would be a guy who like, and everyone would be like, you're incredible. And then I would go there and just get outsized and out leaned and out everything. So you always are just like, I'm not even the second best. I'm the fifth best. I don't feel that good. I don't feel awesome. So like perspective there would be like, every once in a while my wife liked to go there. So I would go like Planet Fitness. And like, you know, I'd walk through Planet Fitness and I felt like fucking Superman. Right. You know what I mean? So I think like, and that's a random example. My point is like having that perspective in your life can be really, really good. It's like say money. Like we surround ourselves around with very successful people with money. That's fantastic. And I love it. I have run my business group and I'm one of the poorer guys there and I do very well. So that's like a good perspective builder for the opposite direction. But like sometimes you just gotta remind yourself like, you know, I make more money than everybody in my entire family. You know what I mean? And I'm only 26. So like, and I own my own business. Like I don't have some job that tortures me and then I make more money. Like I chose this, I built this, I get to do this. So like, I think the one thing that you could have in life is perspective. If you can have that, you can find joy in almost anything.
Yeah.
I think too, there's one of the things that I really liked about wrestling and one of the things I really liked about fighting is how honest it is, because there's no team there to support you. There's nobody else. And so I feel like it translates over into entrepreneurship in some ways. And then in other ways, it makes you like not as quality of a leader. Like you have to develop those skills on the side because you weren't used to having a team and you weren't used to relying on other people. There's an incredible amount of accountability in getting the result. And so, like, I think that's one of the things that we end up judging ourselves on is, you know, if you judge your leadership by results and you're number 2, like, then you really, truly were number 2. And then I contrast that, though, to, like, what you were saying about being in a room where people are tougher than you. That's always the best place to be if you have a fight coming up. Like, you don't want your practice to be easy. You want the fight to be easy. And so, like, you need all of those monsters around you to, like, beat you daily so that you can continue to work on yourself, like iron sharpens iron kind of mentality.
Absolutely. I agree. I think like most of my guys in my business group, you guys would know. I mean, you've had multiple of them on the podcast. So like one like a good example of that is like Tyler Derrickson. Like one thing Tyler does that I've talked to him about where he makes these big things seem so simple. Or like let's say he's talking about warehouse. He'll get you. He'll make you feel like you need like he'll go like I've heard him ask go like why don't you have a warehouse? And you're like well I don't have the money. And he'll go like the bank will give you the money. And he'll explain it simply, and then you go, well, I don't have down payment. He'll go like, well, it's easy to finance. And then you go, well, I don't know which one to buy. And I'll be like, I'll tell you which one to buy.
Yep.
And then you're like, well, fuck, man, just let me let me not do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're making it too easy. But that is the beauty of being around these people. Is like when you're around these people, they make these giant tasks seem so simple, and at a certain point, your perspective changes with them, and you go, wow, this is really simple. You know what I mean? Like once you get into money, and obviously what we're all doing is a little money centric. Like once you get into money, you realize that money is easy. Like anybody who tells you different, I just think has never had the right perspective. Money's easy. I do believe that something I realize, and you guys probably realize, the first 100,000 is really hard. Like that is like I said, the 80, the 90-hour weeks, the like, please let this work, the trying all the tactics. But once you have it, like once you have the base of that, and then you have the ability to invest that in different metrics. Like I'm looking into commercial, I'm looking into industrial, I'm looking into all these different facets, and you just realize that once you have money and you have knowledge, those are 2 keys. Like if you can gain knowledge and you can gain like an asset base, you can basically print money in a sense. And that is the beauty of being around these amazing people. I did want to ask you guys, I think this is a big perspective question. As I bring people onto my company, I'm struggling with leadership. But I am like I've always been the lone soldier. I was a bodybuilder, single sport guy. I ran this company myself for the last 10 years. You know, it's always been me and like handling this. And the reason I like that is because I am the best. I believe that. You know what I mean? But as you bring people on, I'm sure you guys had to, obviously you brought staff on here at LTD. Like it is difficult to trust others to handle things the way you need it to be handled. And it's also the thing that's hard to understand is understanding that just because my way is this way doesn't mean that it has to be how you do it. It's a big separator for me. Like I'll have one of my coaches putting a diet plan in front of me and I'll go, oh no, that's not how you do it. And then I'll have to step back and go, well, maybe that's how they do it. And like that's a really hard one. Is that something like you guys have found a good workaround for, like being a leader, but also understanding that like they bring stuff to the table that you don't, so maybe that like your path might not be the exact path for them?
Yeah, that was something that I struggled with. I'd say I'm like more in the leadership role in the business, and that was something that was like very difficult to adjust from, because like I was very much like Tony talked about, like whenever you're a boxer or wrestler, it's one-on-one. It's just you, and like you're the one growing it. And so then you get so much in that mindset that, okay, this is what it takes, this is what I did, and then you want people to do it exactly the same way you did. So it was definitely an interesting shift. What I would say the biggest, hardest part is like you have to question how much of it is ego. And a lot of it's usually ego. And that's what I noticed in myself is like, why does it have to be my way? Why does it have to be perfect? It's ego. And then what I would say is the best thing to do would be set your expectations. It's okay to have high expectations if they're spoken, but you need to map out every single one of your expectations. That way, if they don't do it the way that you want it to, it's on you because you didn't lead them the right way. So I think extreme ownership, which I think it sounds to me like you take, but I think extreme ownership and then really mapping out your expectations is like the most important. And then it's easy to fire them too, because it's like, dude, hey, I gave you a couple tries. I told you my expectations, and then now you didn't meet those. So I think mapping out what would success look like in this area, what would failure look like, and then they choose now. And then if there's no emotion behind it, it's like, dude, I set you up, I gave it all. And what I did whenever we first started hiring, I was honestly the worst. I was like, oh my gosh, this is freaking, it's hard because I'm so used to it relies on me. Now I'm relying on somebody else. I'm trusting them, but also obviously expect or inspect what you expect. So then I give it to them, and then the hardest part is you have to watch them do it and let them do it. So now you kind of got two jobs because you're letting them do it and you have to like watch them do it. It's like, gosh dang it. It actually, when you first bring people on, it's actually like you're working two jobs now, and you're actually working double what you were because now you're like watching both. So it's an interesting thing, but that's what I would say.
It's hard. I mean, I feel sometimes like I'm like the dad who like takes the wrench out of the kid's hand and is like, just let me do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me do it.
Dad always did.
I know how to do this right. Just let me handle. But the problem with the business, like what I ran into is like the reason I had to bring staffing on is like I have 58 clients. Physically, like I will never let quality control go down. It is probably the biggest struggle in my business in a good sense, but also hard sense is that I will never let individual client quality go down. Like I don't cut out any of the material I gave a long time ago. I don't cut out any of the time I give. I don't do any of that. Like as the business grows, I don't ever limit them. I have to find how to gain with me.
Yep. So define it. I would say define it. Define what you mean by that, because like you use vague words like quality control, and like you say that, that means something to you. That doesn't mean the same thing to them. Absolutely. So you need to actually write down on paper, what does that mean? What does this look like? What does success look like? What does quality look like for me? And what is my expectations for that? And I think if you define that, that is the hardest part. Is I'm learning that in sales. I'm like, how do I do this in sales? It's so much easier for you to do it because you have so much knowledge, you know how to do it. But when you take it out of your brain, you put it on paper and you really map it out, that's the most difficult thing, but that's going to get you to the next level.
Absolutely. That's something Bobby Klein actually says that I love. He says, and Josh Grange also says this a lot when we have meetings, is you got to have processes. Like you have to have them in place. You need to have them there. You have to set the expectation, like all of these things you're saying. I do think one of the things that helped me a little bit recently was understanding that like, if I can give them everything I know, then they're also bringing to the table everything they know. So the only option there is that they become better than me in a good way. Like I would love that. I would love all my coaches to be better than me. That would be fantastic. So like if I can give them everything, then like that. But the struggle there, and I think that's something we talk about a lot at business group, well, my business group, is that with employees, you're looking for another Dakota.
Yeah.
You're looking for another Tony. But the truth is that if there was another Dakota and there was another Tony, they wouldn't be working for you.
Right.
And I think that's a really hard separator to find, is like there is always a difference. I mean, and employees do become business owners, things like that. So that's obviously something there. But if they were at that point, if they were at the Tony and Dakota point, they would be running, the other LTD against you guys. So you almost have to either slowly create those people from nothing, and maybe not nothing, but you say build them up, or you just have to accept that these people are not going to be you, but maybe that's a good thing, because obviously you're doing what you already do.
Yeah, they won't ever know as much as you. So you said they're going to know everything, they'll never know that. So what we like to do is find somebody specific, give them that part of our knowledge, because like that's what I forgot, is like that Tony and I have a lot of knowledge. We've done a lot of different things. Dude, it would take so much time for you to teach something, everybody or someone everything that you know. But if you had somebody who like you really pour into for a specific one, and then you find the client who's going to be with that specific coach, I think that is more effective too.
Yeah, because it does take time. Like obviously my knowledge base came from 10 years, and I'm trying to train these people up. So like I do find I'm doing that a little bit. Like I'm putting one coach in like postpartum infertility stuff. I'm putting one coach into more of like the muscle bound lifting stuff. I have a coach going into like the longevity side stuff, because I do love doing the biohacking, like the saunas, the ice baths, the red light therapy. Like we can go a lot deeper than that, but like I love that side of things. So separating people out can be really, really helpful. But I guess like it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just, it's a leadership tool you have to accept, is like, I just got to put these things in place, and then I need to accept that they are going to be them within these means. And as long as they fit within the box that I expect of them, hopefully on the higher end, then I have to be happy with it. You know what I mean? I can't, expect the moon, and like, but I also can't also accept the limited amount. So I have to set the parameters and make sure that they bounce between the middle.
Yeah, I have something to contribute here too, because I was thinking about it, and Dakota is the CEO, and he's the leader. He's the one that's here on a regular basis. I feel like I'm good at like coming in and kind of like filling in the gaps that he like sometimes will be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So what I was thinking of is, it does scare me a little bit that you said, I will never let my quality, because that like never is just an indicator of a limiting belief. So that to have like that openness and like trust and like vulnerability and like be willing to like, I don't know what your standards are and what your like non-negotiables and what your values are, that you're gonna like coming up with core values for your people, even like being growth minded, not having this enormous ego, you know, things like that. And then understanding that like 70 plus 70 is 140. Like you're 100% you, but like somebody who's 70% as good as you and somebody else that's 70% as good as you equals 140%. And it allows you to magnify your influence. So coming up with those standard operating procedures or SOPs and like really creating an environment of being able to give feedback, which is one of the things that I don't necessarily look forward to once a month, but Dakota got that from one of his coaches. And so we sit down and everybody goes over, okay, 1 through 10, how in are you as far as like your inness?
I love that.
Like while you're here, your inness in the business, the amount of commitment that we feel just on a subjective level, every person individually, and then give us a couple reasons why. And then something else Dakota instituted was, how likely are we to feel as though you're going to get a task accomplished out of 10 if I give you something? Like, hey, I can't do this, I need you to do it. How likely is it that you're actually going to get it done and within the time parameters that we expected? And then if you're not going to get it done, did you let me know?
I'm definitely going to steal that from you. 100%. I'm stealing that from you. I do think the 1 to 10 rule is actually a really good one too. It's something I use with clients. I haven't thought of using with my employees. Like with clients, let's just say I have a client who's not getting results. It's rare, but let's just say I am. The one thing I do is I'll give them a list of things. I'll say rank these on like a scale of 1 to 10, each of them. And what I like to think of that as is it really puts it in perspective who's making the mistake. Because if they are all 10s, I will like 100%. I'm humble about it. There's been times where, you know, my calculations are a little off. You know, I didn't realize this factor was over here. I didn't have like this antidepressant medication they were on in the calculation, so things were off. Like that happens. It's rare. But a lot of times what happens, I give them like, what was your food this week strictness on a scale of 1 to 10? What was this on a 1 to 10? And then all of a sudden they'll all come back with like 7s. And I'm like, well, and then the nice thing though is it puts the power in their hands. They can look at it and they can either go, hey, I'm going to get better, I'm going to improve these, or at least they can know where the blame is. I do think it's important in life to know like when it's on you and when it's on somebody else. Because I do think we live in a society now where people constantly are in the victim phase.
Yeah,
they're just
100%.
like, oh, you know, the reason I'm in this place is because of them. Like the reason I'm overweight is because of this disease I have, this thing which 99% of people don't have. You know, like the reason I'm unhappy or like my life got screwed up. Like everyone, one thing I learned a lot this year, and I actually learned it at PSI, it was a really, really eye-opening moment. I had the thing I pulled the most from. It's actually saved my relationship with my father, my mother. It saved a lot of relationships in my life. Was I stopped. I never was a victim. I never played that part, but I learned to stop villainizing. And I think that's really important because I think we've all heard the story like, let's say you talk about your father. I'm not you specifically with anybody. You know, the first thing that comes out of a lot of people's mouths is, oh, my dad was a drunk.
Yeah.
Not, oh, me and my dad used to go to the lake and I loved him so much and things like that. Like in the grand perspective of things, most people probably had a lot more love than they had negative moments. It's just like, it's like when you go to a restaurant, you don't review a restaurant when it's good, you review a restaurant when your food gave you food poisoning. Right. So we think of those big moments. So I think learning to stop villainizing people and learning that like other people are humans too. I think we have this perspective growing up that our parents and all these other people and the people in our lives are just like coherently geniuses and they understand everything, but really they're not. You know, I mean, they're just as lost as any of us are as we get through things. And
just kids raising kids.
Yeah, it's hard, and then obviously we're all old enough now that I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's just kind of aging, but like to finally be an age where you look at. I remember being like, we all remember being like 15, and you're like your sister or your cousin turns like 22, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're so old. And now like I mean, my wife are coming up on 30, and it's you're like, oh no, I'm still a baby. I'm completely a baby.
Yep, it's crazy. Yeah, the funny thing I was gonna say about the number thing, the interesting thing about it is you said it was subjective, and it is. That's the funny thing is it's so subjective, but it's interesting how most people are within like a half a point from each other.
Yeah.
And the person who's doing it is usually very close to it as well. So it's interesting how subjective it is. And I've actually thought about using this in relationships. Maybe you have a meeting with your wife or with your significant other once a month. Hey, how in do you feel that I am in this relationship? Like how connected and like, you know, intentional do you feel that I am? And like, I would want to know like the reasons of why she feels that way and like what could I do better? Like I'm actually going to probably take this structure. I've noticed, it's so funny, I've noticed a big correlation between relationships, business, and health. So I thought about all of that, but I think that it's very good to be intentional and like actually ask these hard questions and have those conversations with your people.
No, I love that. I think, obviously, you know, I'm a little sappy on this one. You know, I mean, I love my wife to death. She's the best thing in my whole life. And I do think that I have the healthiest marriage I've ever been around. But I think the reason that exists, and I think what you're talking about here is there's work involved. You know what I mean? Like me and my wife didn't just like, I mean, I've always loved my wife. Don't get me wrong. She's the first girl I was ever with. She's been with me since I was young. But, you know, there's a lot of work along the way. You know, we put time into our marriage. We put effort into our marriage. We do, in a way, treat our marriage like a business. You know what I mean? It's transactional in a sense. She does things for me. I do things for her. We make sure it's always fair. We make sure we're doing our part. But I mean, even the scheduling side of things, like, I mean, it's not like the sexiest thing, you know, we've all seen a romantic movie where it's just like making out in the rain and all these things. But like in real life, if you want to have a real like joy-filled marriage, if you want to have a good structure, if you want to be happy, you know,
like it's going to rain on Saturday at 12, so we can schedule that in.
Let's get outside. Let's get a photo. It really is, like I said, as you move through things, I mean, and I think this is the beautiful thing about health. It is the beautiful thing about business. This is the beautiful thing is that I think you realize it's on you. Mm-hmm. I think that's huge. I think like when you get to the point in your life where you realize it's on you. I say that to clients a lot, you know, like your weight, it's on you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Your health, your muscle, it's on you. You have plenty of options here. And the problem is I think most people don't like that answer because it gives them the responsibility that now they have to fix it. Yep. And people don't like that. People want to live in the world where it's on everyone else. The reason that their life isn't good and everything's going bad is because it's everyone else. Yep. But when you realize that it's on you, it also empowers the hell out of you because you go like, if it's on me, that means I have the power to create and do anything. Yep. Anything I want. Yep. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, I've been thinking about, you talked about like relationships being hard work, and it's funny that I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I think it's always interesting that when you talk about walking into a room and you see somebody who's fit, you know that they work out. The interesting thing is whenever you see somebody wealthy, what do you think? Oh, they just got that given to them, or they got this, or like they're like better than everybody else because they like got this money. That's the interesting thing though, is that money is a game. It's like it's a learning thing, and like you said, it's easy to come by. That's because you learned about it. You learned how to make it, and so I think it's always interesting the different perception. Yes, can you just get money and you're born into it? Yes, it's possible, but I would say that it's probably 10% of the people. Whereas like but like in the same sense, if you're like really skinny, you're more likely to have abs. Like it's just a fact. So like, is it gonna be easier and harder? So I just noticed a huge correlation between relationships, working out, and business. It's all the same. Like you have to continually learn about it. Like I'm learning about relationships. I'm learning about business. I'm learning about working out. I'm watching videos. It's like how intentional on it is at the level that you go to. So if you spend more time on business, like that's what I did. I've spent time on business in the last 6 years, and now like it worked out really well, but at what cost? It cost me some like my relationships, my spirituality. So now I'm like, oh man, I don't like this anymore. So what do? I learn more about relationships. I learn more about spirituality. Now that's coming up. Like it's just crazy how whatever you spend your effort, time on, that's what you're gonna get more of. But people don't think about that with money specifically for some reason, and it's the same in every single area of life.
Well, something I just thought of too that's kind of funny, just among us, we have this rapport that relationships are hard. But I think it's funny that we said that because like Derek just said, like money is easy. Not everybody thinks like that. Some people are like, dude, my relationships are so easy, I just can't make money. So I just think it's funny that like this room in particular, we're all in agreement that like, yeah, like once you get started and you get going, like money's easy. Relationships are hard.
Well, I don't think either of them are hard or like I wouldn't even like say if it's easy or hard. I would just say it's work. Either one is work. That's all I'm saying is like, no matter what, across the board, whether you're going to do relationships, whether it's business, whether it's your health, whether it's your spirituality, it's work. It's time investment. That's all I'm saying is like, it doesn't necessarily one's hard or easy. That is like perspective in the person. And then obviously like, you know, wherever they're at or how you view that. But either way, it's going to require some work.
Yeah, I definitely think exactly that. And I think there's a big separating factor. I think people also, when they look at people in maybe these situations where they go, like I said, they just have it easy. And I think people think about marriages, oh, they just were happy. You know, he just got lucky at this thing. But at the end of the day, you know, there is a lot of work involved in these things. And I think the one thing that people don't think about when it comes to work is that, like, they think that you're just a hardworking person. And I can tell you for a fact it's not true. Like, I am lazy as hell. The only thing that I understand is how to do things when I don't want to do them. Like, that is a huge thing. Like, I am internally so lazy, but I will outwork everyone you put in front of me because I understand that I can do things when I don't want to do them. And I think that's how marriage, and I think that's how all these factors need to be. Like, there's times where I don't want to write my wife a sweet note before I go to bed because I'm tired and I just did all this business. But, you know, I can do things that I don't want to do. There's a beautiful quote, and it goes to marriages, it goes to business, stuff like that. And it's how you feel about something is, gosh, I'm going to mess this up. At the end of the day, it's like how you feel about something is fine, but your actions are up to you. So like you can not want to do something, you can like feel bad about something, but it doesn't change the fact that you're still capable of those actions. Like you can be in a bad mood, you can still be loving to your wife. You know, you can wake up tired and you can still go kick ass at work.
Dude,
you can I said you can not be happy about everything you have and still be grateful.
Yeah. And it's interesting that people will take those feelings and then that's the reason of why that they are a certain way. Well, it's like, no, those things didn't make you do that. You chose to do that. So I love that. And it's funny, like that actually makes me think of something else. I know we got to get into some closing questions because we're getting close here, but it makes me think of something else that I always have thought about is like, let's say somebody's in an abusive relationship and then like they're beating their girlfriend or whatever. It's interesting to me that if the girlfriend or if other people find out that, oh, well, that person's father was abusive. Now, for some reason, now that we know why, they give him a pass. I'm like, that doesn't make his actions okay. We now understand why he does it, but that doesn't make what he's doing okay. Same thing that you're saying is like, if you're experiencing tiredness, guess what? It doesn't give you a reason not to work out. You can experience whatever you want to experience. And dude, I've noticed that. It's like, I've been sick. Like I found out I had strep for like 2 weeks. I was at the gym 6 days a week. I don't give a crap. I got rear-ended the other day. I'm still going to the gym because I now have this as like, I'm going to do this and I don't care about the outside circumstances. There will be nothing that will stop me from like going where I'm going.
And I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I think, like I said, it's something that lacks, man. People nowadays are just, they're lazy and they find excuses for everything. And I think if you can just get to the point in your life where, like I said, you understand it's on me.
Yep.
It's on me, like I said, and the choices I make and the way my life ends up is on me. Like if you have a big fight, probably on you. You know, like if you're out of shape, probably on you.
Yeah.
If, like I said, if you're unhappy, that's a big one. It's probably on you. I've been very, very depressed at points in my life. I had some very traumatic things happen several times, even in recent years. And you know what? The thing that got me out of it was understanding that happiness was on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there wasn't some magic fairy dust that came down one day, or I didn't just wake up one day and go, like, oh, it's gone. All the sadness in the world, I'm happy now. No, it's on me. I have to decide to be happy. I have to act upon it.
Yeah, last one too is if you don't have money, it's on you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everybody thinks that like that's the one.
If you don't have money, it's on you because it's easy once you understand the knowledge, and the knowledge is free.
Yep.
That's the beauty of it. It's free, and if it's not free, it's cheap. Like people don't want to put money into themselves, but you should. You need to invest in yourselves. I tell people all the time, you will make tenfold back, whether it's on your health, whether it's on money, whether it's on business coaching, whether it's on anything. Just do it. You'll be happier for it.
100%.
Derek, what's your biggest struggle right now?
My biggest struggle right now is uncertainty. I struggle a lot with it. I think it's something that we all struggle with in business. Is just, you know, it is a fear of this thing that I love going away, and the things that you get attached to along with it. I mean, it is the money. It is these things. You can't help it. The lifestyle improves, and you love these things. And the uncertainty is one thing I'm trying to get away from in the scarcity mindset. Scarcity mindset, it goes away and it comes back. But when it comes back, it brings the uncertainty with it.
So this is our legacy question. It's the final question. Have you seen it?
I've seen it before. I think.
All right. I was gonna say our virtual assistant who cuts a lot of the clips cuts this one usually.
Okay, beautiful.
So
He's like, so make
so
sure
you already know what it is. You already know what it is.
Make
Did
it
you?
perfect.
Do you have it written on your hand? I think I see
it's
something
right
there.
It's right there.
Okay. Well, it is on your forearm.
Yeah,
but-
it's right. 100%.
So 74 years from now, you're on your deathbed and you have a final message to the world. It could be a sentence, a mantra, a paragraph. It's a billboard in Times Square. It's your legacy message that people are going to remember you for, to your friends, to your family, something you feel that the world needs to hear. They'll remember Derrek Eby said this. What's your legacy message?
My legacy message would be that relationships are everything. That's something that's really important to me. You can be a rich man in an empty room and be very sad. And we've all been the poor man in a room full of people we love, and you have the best night of your entire life. So just make sure you pay attention to the relationships in your life, your marriages, your friends, things like that. And if you can make sure those are good, you'll be happy.
I like it.
Awesome. How can our listeners get a hold of you? What do they need to like, subscribe to, comment on?
Beautiful. So Hercules Training is the easiest way to find me. So herculestraining.org is our website if you want to get connected with me from there. Hercules Training on Instagram is another one, or just Derrek Eby on Facebook and other networks. We have a lot of big stuff coming and dropping in March, a lot of coaches coming on, a lot of big website changes, new website dropping. So anybody who wants to get involved or wants to ask any questions, just reach out to me through any of those forums.
Like it.
You have any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
Oh man, just take care of your health, take care of your life. You know, obviously not even from my perspective, do it with someone else if you need to. But like I see it every day. When people take care of themselves, their lives get better, they get happier, everything comes together. So take care of yourself and watch the heck out of these guys, man. I love watching your guys' stuff. You guys are so helpful. You guys really do give a good outreach in a community that, you know, Fort Wayne can be not business centric, can be not business minded, and a lot of people are limited in their thought process, and you guys do give them the opportunity to step out of that zone and feel better.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and thank you guys for watching. I know you guys got a lot of value from this today. So special shout out to Derrek for coming on. We appreciate you. And if you guys got some out of this, like, comment, share, because I know you got something. Share this with somebody. Peace.